Okay guys, I'm going to attempt to make a scratch based off of your assignment on 3.8 where you want to make a sentence and use lists to get the sentence to get the cat to say different things. Now, I'm not an expert at Scratch, and I'm going to fumble around a little bit, and also I might have to pause the video at various points because people are always coming in and out of my room at school. But anyway, let's get started. So obviously your opening Scratch is just a cat here. First thing we want to do is we want to add like buttons to the Scratch. I should also mention that we're going to make this one more complicated than necessary because it's going to teach you a lot of things that maybe you didn't even need to complete this assignment. But it's going to give you like a whole look at the way that lists can be used in a little bit more detail than you might need, but detail that you do need eventually when you're going to be doing your own AP Create tasks and so on and so forth. So we've got the cat and we need more stuff. So you can search for let's just make them buttons. So I'm going to add a button, then I'm going to duplicate it a few times, and then that way we're going to have these 4 buttons that are going to be around our screen. Okay, let's call this button let's call this one backwards. We'll call, and in order to get that to say backwards, we're going to go to the costume for that and add a little text box and call it backward. Okay, and now we've created our button called backward. We click somewhere else so that it's saved, go back to the code, and we see that this one is called backward. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the recording and create all the other buttons so we don't waste a bunch of time watching me create buttons and add text to them. And so I'm going to do that now, and there you go. Okay, so we're back now, and I've named all the buttons. Actually, that's bothering me. I'm going to put that down there so it's even. I call them every third, every other, backwards, and middle 5. So the first thing that we need to understand about each one of these is that we need to make it so that when it's pressed, it does something back on the cat. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a broadcast for each one of the buttons that's going to, that when the cat receives it, you know, when the sprite receives it, it'll start doing that program. So in order to do that, we go to our events button and we say, oh, when this sprite is clicked, what I would like you guys to do is, or what I'm suggesting is, we broadcast a message, and we're going to call that, what was that one on? That was on, let me just look for that again. We were on every other. So we're going to make a new message called every other. And it's important to do that so that the cat can hear every other and start doing something back on the code for the cat, which for right now, as you can see here, is empty. So every other, again, I'm going to pause the video, and we're going to make those broadcasts for each button and not waste time watching me do it. Okay, so these are all done. As you can see over here, backwards has backwards, middle 5, every other, and every third. Now the one thing that I do want to do is I actually would like to add another button, and we are going to make that button the one that helps us set a sentence. So we're going to call this button set sentence. So under the text here, you just, you know, can do that sentence, and then you don't have to worry about the size, because you can just click on this box and make it smaller as you shrink it. So this is going to be called the set sentence box. If I can just move it where I need to move it. And so now, what do we do for the set sentence button? Well, in the code for the set sentence button, what you want to do is you want to have it say, like, when this sprite is clicked, we are going to broadcast something else, and we're going to call that, let's say, the set sentence button. Okay? This is going to be important for how we want to organize our code and make the cat do different things, because in this blank space over here, we are going to want to get the cat to do stuff. So let's talk about that set sentence button for a second. So what do I want to do? I want to get it so that I'm asking the user for input, right? I'm asking the user for a sentence. So what you want to do is you want to say, oh, when this sprite is clicked, sorry, not when this sprite is clicked. When I receive, because we're on the cat now, so when the cat receives set sentence, we need to do some types of things. So what we want to do is we need to ask for the user to type a sentence. So say ask, please enter a word. Let's say a word here because we want to get that word to display every other letter. So we're just going to make it easy and say a word. But if you did write a sentence, it would do the same thing. Ultimately, it would check for every third. Sorry, that's the bell while I'm trying to record this. It would check for every other letter, every third letter, every fifth, the middle 5 letters inside the sentence. But for now, just to make it easy, we're going to use the example from scratch, the Go Longhorns. So we're going to do that once the program is done running. We're going to enter that as our word. So please enter a word. And then what we need to do is we need to make a variable called sentence. And we need to say that when I receive set sentence, and then type in the thing, say set sentence to, and we're gonna have that be the answer, right? So set sentence to the answer, and now we're gonna have this answer, the sentence is set to the answer, and that's going to come up for us later on in the code. Okay, so now we have this set up as the answer that we're going to be referring to. The one thing that I did forget to mention was that in our every other button, there's something important that we need to do. And that is that we need to make a new variable. We did this in class, and I just forgot to do it in my from scratch thing. And we're going to call that variable step. When this step thing is activated, it's going to be important for back on the sprite. But when the sprite is clicked, we need to set the step to 2. Now, it's important for us to do that in the every other, and it's also important for us to do it in every third. So we're going to go back and do it to every third as well, except we're going to say that in this case, the step is going to be 3. And so you might be catching on right now as to why we're doing this. But now let's go back to the sprite so that we can do what we need to do. So we're over here at the sprite, and we need to talk about the every other. The one that we did in class, we're gonna do that again here because that'll go fastest hopefully, and we'll see what happens. So what's going to happen? We need to say, events, when I receive every other, we're going to have to do a few things. So what we want to do here is we want to make another variable, and we're going to call that variable the index. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because we need to have 2 separate variables we're keeping track of in order to jump around sentences in the code. So when I receive every other, what we're going to do is we are going to set the index to step. We need the index to be step. And the reason why we're going to do that is because we're keeping track of which part of the word or sentence that we're up to. And I'll explain what that means as we go along. So what we need to do here is we need a repeat until block. And we did this in class already, and I was explaining it there. But we're going to need to set a few things up here. So the index is going to be like the place at which the letter is in the sentence. That's basically what index means here. So we need to set a repeat until where we say that something is greater than something. So what we need to do is repeat until, sorry, let's put that, I have to drag it to where it's supposed to go. Repeat until the index is greater than the length of my other variable, which is sentence. Now, as we explained in class, the idea is that your index is counting what place you're up to in the sentence, and it needs, and every time, I'm just going to sort of keep adding the stuff that we already did in class so that we could do what we need to do. Sorry, I went to the wrong color. So what we need to do is we need to say some stuff for a certain amount of time. We need to, because we're trying to say every other letter, right, in this case. So we need to say, and in our operators block, we actually have a letter thing. So we need to say letter index of sentence, and let's say 1 second. We don't want to waste more time than we need to. And then when we're done with that, we need to change the variable index by another variable step. So basically what we're doing here is, and this is actually complete, when I receive the every other, I'm setting my index to step. So if you recall, under the every other button, the step was 2. So the index is now set to step. So repeat until the index is greater than the length of the sentence. We say the letter index, which right now is 2, of the sentence. We say letter number 2 of the sentence for 1 second. Then we change the index by 2, because step is 2. We're going to try to say every other letter. So now when we go back and repeat this again, the next letter it's going to say is index 4, because we changed 2 plus 2. So now we're saying the 4th letter in the sentence. Then we're saying the 6th, then the 8th, then the 10th, right? Until our index is greater than the length of the sentence. So in this example, when we run the code and we set our sentence to peanuts and enter that, then we say, then we ask it to do every other, E, N, T, and then it shuts down. Do you see what we did there? ENT shuts down because finally the index got to be greater than the length of the sentence. I actually need to pause here because on my clock, I'm 4 minutes away from a meeting I need to be on. So I'm actually going to go ahead and pause the video and come back and we'll do the rest. Actually, you know what? I can fit one other quick thing in. One thing that I want to point out is that you don't actually need to make a new one of these to do every third now. Because we already set up every other, and now under every third, we've set the step to 3, and then we actually don't need to broadcast every third if we don't want to, but I'm not going to go back and redo the whole video. We're just going to broadcast every other again. Why? Because you go back to the sprite, because you've set the step to 3 now, and when you go back to the sprite, you can still do every other, and it doesn't matter what it says underneath, because your step is set to 3. So in the same scenario where I run the code and I set my sentence to peanuts and then say, oh, give me every third, now it's doing A, T, and stopping. Because the step was set behind the scenes under this button, and every third we said set step to 3. So that's a quick little thing that I'm going to fit in for you guys before my meeting, which is now in 2 minutes. And then when we get back, we're going to cover backwards and middle 5. Oh boy, I'm back now. Easy meeting. But I listened to the recording to see where I left off and what I should start with next. I do not have a good recording voice, guys. All right, whatever. I doubt any of you have made it this far in the video. Anyway, if you have, send me an email that says, "No, Rabbi Fleischman, your voice is beautiful." Okay, so we've covered when I receive every other. We mentioned how every other could also apply to every third by changing the step inside this button to be 3. And now we're in, now let's talk about, let's say, reverse, because that's going to be similar to what it is that you need to do. So remember that we have the, we already have a broadcast message of reverse. So let's go and start off with our usual when I receive and set it to backwards, right? That was the one that we set up. I'm going to move over a little bit here so we can zoom in and see everything better. So remember that we need to basically what we have to do here is that we need to mess around with that index again, but do something a little bit different to it. So in this case, what we want to do is when we receive backwards, we're going to now set the index to the length of the variable sentence. Okay? And what we need to the reason why we're doing that is because this repeat block that we're going to be putting in, this repeat until, is going up. There's the bell for mincha. I'm gonna try to do this and then run to junior high mincha, and then come back and do this before I have to, do my next thing at 3:30 or whatever. Okay, good. So repeat until. So what we want to do here is we want to say, oh, repeat until the index is 0, meaning that we have gotten to, sorry, not set index. Repeat until, sorry, we need to put another operator in. Repeat until, index equals 0. And then what we're going to do until we repeat that is now we're going to go to our say block again. So we need to say, what are we trying to get it to do? Say, and we're going to have the same idea here, letter of, right? Say letter index of sentence for 1 second. But then when this is done, what do we need to do before we change the index to we changed it by step because we're counting from the beginning, and then we're saying count every 2. But now what do we need to do? If index has been set to the length of the sentence, in which case peanuts, which is 2, 4, 6, 7 letters long. I just had to count that for a second. That means index is now 7. So what do we have to do? We have to now change index by, we're going backwards, so do we do by 1? No. We do -1. And now, voila. Let's say now when we click backwards, STUNAEP. It just did it backwards because what did it do? It set the index to 7 and then said that we should repeat everything till we get down to 0. Index starts at 7. We have to say the letter index, so the letter number 7 of the sentence for a second, and then change the index by 1. So next we say letter 6, letter 5, letter 4, letter 3, letter 2, letter 1, till we get till 0, and it stops. And that is how we do the backwards button. All right, I'm going to pause the recording again, run to mincha, and then come back and finish with the 5 middle letters, which is a little complicated anyway. Okay, so I'm back from mincha, and now we got to get this last thing done. So remember we had, it was called middle 5 over here, and so we're in our sprite, and now we want to do a the events for when I receive middle 5. Okay, so what do we want to do here? Well, first of all, we have an issue because how can you do the middle 5 letters of sentence if somebody types in a sentence that's too short? So the first thing you got to do is you got to cut out that ability for somebody to do that. So we got to make an if-else block. So we're going to attach that here and say, well, if the length of, sorry, we're going to do a less than block here. If the length of the sentence is less than 5, then, so we're going to say less than 6, then say that it's too short. So we're going to go to our looks here, say too short, try again. And the reason why we're doing that is because we need the math to work in the next part of it. So what we're doing here is we need to get to the middle 5 of the sentence. So the way to figure out the middle 5 letters of a sentence would be, well, to subtract 5 from the total of your sentence, divide it by 2 and add 1 and set our index to that number, because that's the way that you would get the middle 5. That's just the math of it, and I really don't want to spend time doing a math class here. But if we say that that is what it is, then let's just go ahead and create that inside of our variable. So we need to go back to our operators. We need to set the index. Well, we got to end with a plus. So we'll put that in first. We have to divide by 2, put that in there. We have to divide by 2, and we have to subtract before we get there. So that's going to go, so that stuff's going to go there. So now what we end up saying is, oh, it's going to be, we're going to set the length of length of sentence. We're then going to, we're going to have to add back in there because it was over there before. We're going to have to get the operator and say minus. So it's the length of the sentence. We're gonna get this to work. Good. I think we got it. So the length of sentence minus 5 divided by 2 plus 1. Now what do we have to do is we have to say, oh, repeat this 5 times. We're going to repeat the following thing 5 times. So every time we set the index, and then we're going to, so I'll show you what we're going to do. So 5 times we're going to repeat the following thing. We're going to say that we should, we're going to say we're going to put a say for x seconds. We're going to make it 1 second though. And what we need to do is letter index of sentence again, like we had in the other one. So letter index of sentence for 1 second. We're going to say that, and then after that, we've got to change our index. We've got to change our index by 1 so that then that index is going to be computed to say the next 5. I see I have this little hidden block over here. I'm going to take that out. So now let's go ahead and run that. What happened to my stuff here? Let's save it. Did it go away? There we go. No. Something's messed up here. And I can't see my guy. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and fix this and then come back. Okay, so we're back. I reloaded the page and everything seems fine. So now when we want to set our sentence and make it peanuts, press enter and say middle 5. It's going to do the math. And it's supposed to say, oh, interesting. Well, this is a very good lesson and opportunity we have here. It looks like my math, I didn't get the right amount of oh, I think I see what I did. Its length of, I see, okay. So its length of sentence has to be in its own thing. And, okay, so let's try to redo this here. Okay, so I spared you multiple minutes of me trying to get this to work and being able to drag the operator inside the operator inside the operator, and you couldn't see when it was highlighted because it was covering it, and it was a really annoying thing. But what we're going to be doing here is, now we're going to zoom back out, and we have that middle 5, and we're going to put this entire block, set the length of index to this complicated mathematical formula. Sorry, these things are all part of the trial and error from before when I was trying to do this. And now what we should get is Let's try it this time. Middle 5, E-A-N-U-N-T. So basically what we did here is we set the length of the sentence, we set the index to what would end up being the length of the sentence minus 5 divided by 2 plus 1. So in this case, 2, 4, 6, 7. 7 minus 5 is 2 divided by 2 is 1 plus 1. So that makes us start at the second letter of the word, because 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the middle 5. And then you repeat that for 5 times. That's going to be just repeat that block. And then every time change the index to just say the index, then in this repeat block over here of 5 times, we're going to say, well, now we say the letter index, which was, if you remember, was 2 of the sentence for 1 second, then change the index by 1. Since we're doing that 5 times, it gives you letters 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So now, if this will work, I want to open up the see the project page. Not shared, so only I can see it. We're going to start, and we're going to, I didn't do like, hey, give me a sentence and do whatever. So please enter a word. Let's try the word Trafalgar. Actually, you know what? Let's try the word pair first so that we can get an error on middle 5. So I type middle 5. Ooh, too short. Try again. So I need to set my sentence to Trafalgar. That's now we have on our list. That's what our sentence is set to. Now when I do backwards, it sets the step. It gives me just the whole letter backwards. So there's Trafalgar backwards. When I do the middle 5, it'll give me Afalg. And then when I do every other, our step is set to 2. Rafalg, right? So you see that, and it stopped. And every third is every third letter, as you can see there. And so that is our tutorial on how to make a scratch. I'm going to go edit this thing and make sure that it sounds halfway decent, and then publish it and share the link with you guys. And hopefully we can use this every year to help us get through this first most important making a list activity in Scratch 3.8. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.